Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Let's Get Printing. I'm your host, Zach Dewhurst, the Business Development Manager at DecoNetwork. I started my own business all the way back in 2009, Print Phase, which revolves around screen print and DTF heat transfers. And my 14 plus years of experience in this industry, one thing has impacted it more than anything else by a mile, and that is DTF, direct to film heat transfers. I mean, it has instantaneously changed the way shirts are printed. Shops are making big decisions as far as what equipment they are really getting rid of to replace it with DTF because the cost, what I can print on, the speed, I mean, everything. It is the decoration method that for decades we've all been kind of hoping and waiting for. I like to look at it as, hey, a computer replaced a typewriter. Is anybody saying, hey, you know what? I think the typewriter's better. No. Every decoration process is a time and place. Nothing is going to disappear. Screen printing, DTG, sublimation, HTV. None of these processes are going to go completely away, but DTF has impacted everything, including embroidery, unlike any other process. And it's a digital printing process. It's technology that has finally caught up to what we really hoped for. And that is a process that just makes life easier for everyone. And we're really excited today to have Chris from Cobra Flex. He co-founded Cobra Flex around 6 years ago. For those who don't know, Cobra Flex is very much so a leader when it comes to innovating DTF equipment and consumables. There's a lot of great stuff that Cobra Flex is doing. Chris has a vast amount of knowledge. Really excited to have this conversation with him and talk about what is next when it comes to DTF. Things are changing when it comes to the equipment, technology, the ink colors, inks that we could put in there, and then all the other consumables themselves. So again, real excited to have Chris here to talk with us about all things DTF and where it's going. But before we do that, we need to recognize our awesome sponsor, DecoNetwork, the all-in-one print shop management software that allows you to manage your custom decoration business using one software system. No more having to pay for multiple software subscriptions for both a back-end management system and a front-end system for websites that you use for yourself to take custom orders, whether it be on apparel or transfers, or websites that you're providing to your clients, which are typically selling a pre-decorated product that you dropship fulfill. DecoNetwork, again, has the all-in-one capabilities, so you only have to use one software system. Go to DecoNetwork.com today to request your free demo and see for yourself why DecoNetwork is the game-changing software to run your decoration business. Now, with that said, let's get back to the show. How's it going, Chris?
It's going great. In Arizona, nice and warm.
Arizona. Well, I mean, you know what? If you're going to innovate DTF, why not do it in, the driest climate possible? It's not like you're playing with water-based inks that need higher humidity or anything.
You're right. We try to control as best we can here for sure.
If you can print any water-based ink in Arizona, you could print anywhere in the world practically. Yeah. I always say, and I always find it funny, I'm really looking forward to the DTF Expo next year, which will be the second year, and I know it's in your backyard, and it's like they're having a DTF convention in a room. Somebody's got to be pumping in a big amount of humidity in there.
Yeah, a lot of humidity and get that temperature control just right for everybody.
Or they could be using a stealth, which
that's right.
Essentially, let's throw all that stuff out the window.
Yeah.
Because, and that's what I want to talk about today, Chris, because you co-founded Cobra Flex, and Cobra Flex is very much so, one of the top leaders when it comes to all things DTF. You guys are innovating the equipment, the consumables, educating, and you guys have been doing it since DTF essentially just started making its way over here. 6 years ago, Chris?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it was me and my business partner Jim started designing our first machines in a building here, and next thing you know, it was a lot of testing, and before you know it, we were putting stuff together, and he looked over at me and said, what do we want to call this thing? And I just called it the industry disruptor, But he looked at me and goes, we can't do that. But
we'll call it DTF and see if it catches.
But at that time, I pretty much knew that, it was going to change the market on, how we decorate apparel, and customers were going to get an ROI back quickly, and the technology was really going to escalate, and this was just the beginning.
I don't want to say, I knew about this over a decade ago, but I remember hearing this concept over a decade ago from somebody. And a lot of things, it takes time to get over here to the States.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, like UV DTF is starting to catch on. Well, I saw UV DTF videos the same month I saw a DTF printer here in the States. It just took a few years to kind of make its way over. And it's the Wild Wild West, Chris. I mean, we're 6 years kind of right around that into this new decoration process that is disrupted the way that shirts are printed. It's changed. I mean, nothing has impacted the industry so quickly. And I just, it's such a game changer. My background in the industry, what we primarily did, I would say, was we printed a lot of plastisol heat transfers. I was always all about heat transfers because one, if I'm using them internally, I can decide when I need a press, where I want to press, and I'm making something to order very quickly and easily, especially when you have websites, stores for clientele. Transfers are just always a great option. But then I've also sold a lot of transfers. What I did and I still do, when I was in high school, I was a part of a marketing entrepreneurship organization called DECA. And it's all about running they need a fundraise because they go to events. And what they typically do is they operate a school store. And guess what primary product they sell at the school store? It's apparel. Yeah. But what do you learn when all you have to do is take a shirt out of the box, put it on the rack, and then take someone's money? You don't learn much. So what I did over 10 plus years ago is I started selling heat presses to schools, and then we would sell them the plastisol transfers, and that went really well. And it still goes very well. But then when I started offering these DTF to the schools, I'll tell you what, they don't want even plastisol anymore because I can see through it. Just even that little thing is big. And, I started playing around with PET film way before DTF. And even today, if I want to buy PET film to screen print on, it's way more expensive than DTF. I don't know why. I just take a roll and cut it up. But, it's, and, I can only imagine what some of the bigger transfer shops, obviously they pivoted. I know Stahl sells a ton of DTF. But it's also, Chris, in a way, it's with DTG as well. Customers 15, 20 years ago, they bring you one color, two color artwork all the time. We've spoiled them to the point where I want something that almost has to be process printed every time. I mean, it just is what it is, that we have influenced the customer's expectations, and that's where we're at now. And so before we talk about DTF, I want to talk about DTG, because DTG was the big digital printing process that came about in the early 2000s. I bought my first DTG printer 2011, Brother 782. Yeah. With the pre-treat setup.
541s. The Brother 541s.
782 still set back there. It only cost me $55,000 when I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
And the thing that with DTG, anybody who did DTG, or just really the industry as a whole, we learned so much through DTG.
A lot.
And the biggest thing you would have learned if you DTG'd was respect the chemistry that goes into all of this. And I was 20 when I bought mine, kind of young and stupid. You could tell me humidity is important to my face over and over and over again. And I'd be like, well, why? That's what's the matter. Well, turn on the AC. Well, do you realize that you're just decreasing the humidity? Turn on the heater. So, before anything happens when it comes to DTF, there's a lot of different printers out there. Chris, it doesn't matter what printer again, I have to watch now because of you. You're the one. But for every printer out there, if you're going to buy a printer, you better set up a space for it. You're not going to just take an open warehouse and just make it work. It doesn't work like that. These machines are very temperamental, and it's really head scratching, Chris, because I don't know if it's the way with your Cobra Flex printers, but I talk with a lot of shops. They'll buy the same printer that they bought the first time. They'll put the same inks, all same consumables, but guess it's same color profile. They get different prints on the two machines.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And talk about this a little bit. I'm really close with Jay Wilson. I know you like Jay.
Yeah.
Jay's a great guy. I helped him with DecoNetwork many years ago, and Jay's my DTF expert. He installed my printer. I love it, but it shocked me. Like, he was like, higher altitude, the Midwest, out west, like you may use a different color profile. So DTF is very much so a process in my experience. Once you've built the optimal room, once you've really had an expert help you set up the printer, I think you're crazy personally to try to do all this on your own unless you have Chris's background and can problem solve like that. But once the machine's set up and going, oh my gosh, it's printing money. It really is. I mean, but it's not, again, a lot of people buy the machine, they think it's going to be plug it in, call it a day. There's a lot of variables to get right. And, what was pretty crazy for the first handful of years, Chris, and again, it's hard to me to lump Cobra Flex in this as well. And I'll be honest, I don't know your history to a T, but what made DTF unique was all of this equipment initially is coming from China, and there's no other decoration process, screen printing, embroidery, DTG, all this stuff wasn't come from China. We could buy, we have a lot more confidence as consumers when we buy American, Japanese, or German engineered, Korean engineered. I mean, like there's just, but when I think of Chinese always, it's not necessarily always the most positive thinking. And some of these machines, are just, when people were buying them right off the bat a few years ago, you could have bought kind of a lemon fairly easily. Yeah. And what we've seen in the past couple of years, now you have Mamaki coming out with theirs. You have Brother, which was, you're going to take a DTG printer and just spin it around and charge an arm and a leg. But, you start seeing these, other brands outside of China. I'm seeing it more and more at shows. Tell us a little bit about Cobra Flex's printers and kind of like your strategy as far as engineering one of these, and what version are we on? Are we on essentially the third generation of printers? How do you see the industry currently? We've
technically had 5 generations of machines.
5. Wow.
And granted, some of them weren't a lot of them in the market, but we learned a lot from that unit, and we learned better products on them, better components. We learned how not to do certain things that weren't needed because we were, fighting with static bars and trying to create, things to solve problems, but they technically weren't really needed. We could build better machines and use other components to make it a better quality product. Then it went to speed, and then it changed from speed to size. So we modified our drying units. Our first drying unit was a vertical dryer for one of our liquid adhesive, and that dryer was just a vertical elements that went up and down. I mean, so we went from that to a powder shaker vertical dryer and rolled right into that. We changed that from a flip door, kind of like a Tesla, which we thought was really good, but the more and more we used it too and ran it in R&D, it wasn't too long before we decided that needed to be a swing door. That we're just problem solving technically. Really, when we engineer here and we sit in the conference room and our engineer pulls up all the schematics of some designs, we're dissecting problems that we come across in a service queue, or we hear at trade shows, or we just know that's happening in the industry. And it could be stuff that's going on our machines that, listen, how do we control this better, and how do we make a better machine? At times I want them to be perfect, right? And I always feel like that next machine, we're already thinking of something better, something faster, something smaller. But right now, the game really is like you nailed it earlier. It's colors. Colors right now in the market, everybody who's in it has tested different machines, and they've tested all different products. And, overseas inks, you're going to get inconsistencies. So they're going to burn up your print heads. They're going to make them fire hotter. So, all those things add up. And good products are really where it's at, I think, because it's somebody's livelihood, let's face it, at this point.
Well, and I'm a believer. Well, everything needs to synchronize and play nicely together. You could somebody could go out and buy the Stealth Cobra Flex and then put the cheapest consumables into it, and they're not going to get the best results.
Yeah.
And color profiles. I was talking with Mamaki recently, and they have like 4 or 5 color profiles for different types of film. What happens when the film changes and they didn't tell you, hey, this is now a little different?
We've been pretty consistent. We've been pretty consistent on the films, on the coatings. We're very, very strong on the coatings.
Has that gotten better? Because that was something
Yes.
initially, a few years ago, I'd be like, oh my gosh. And Jay would sell me my film. And what I liked about Jay is he'd buy a palette and he'd pull one from the top, one from the middle, one from the bottom, and he'd print a little bit himself to know. But that's literally what you had to do, a few years ago.
Early on, that was the case.
But it's gotten and is all the film still made in China?
Not really, because we're getting coating now done in the U.S. on all of our films. And a lot of the films right now, too, that we're putting out in the market are formaldehyde-free films. That's a big thing, too, because safety is a big issue. So it's evolving. And, obviously you're going to get people that are going to, race to the bottom and buy stuff that's cheap and use it. But in the long run, it's not always the best right now to do that. It's costing a lot of time.
Those who had DTG'd have a leg up. People don't know what expensive is. When I got my DTG printer, I could print something that cost $6 all day long, easily. We're talking about going from, 60 cents to 80 cents, and people are worried about that. I mean, it's kind of crazy to me because this process, why did it take over so quickly? Well, many reasons. One, you don't even have to own the dang printer. You just have to have a heat press, and you can put out a phenomenal product. With DTG, I have to physically have the product to DTG to it. So a heat press is the cheapest thing you can buy, and it has the lowest learning curve possible. So you have all these people, all those Cricut moms all of a sudden are put out some really nice stuff instead of just one color vinyl because it's that easy. And not only that, the print looks amazing. They cost a lot less. I mean, just everything you can imagine. I can go on to any type of fabric. So there's so many reasons why everybody loves the process. But these, for those who print, initially the consumables were a little bit of battle, where everybody was learning at the same time. And I'm always been a firm believer, hey, I would rather pay for the best consumables, which, by the way, in the past couple of years, they're like half of what they were initially, almost. I mean, has gotten cheaper. Now, talk to me about your film, because I didn't know you were making in the States, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing after this episode is going to buy some film from Cobra Flex.
Definitely a lot of our stuff that we try to do is proprietary to what we do. So the coatings are getting done here on all the films. Formaldehyde-free has just been a big deal. You're not going to get the big brand companies in the market to really jump on this. They might experiment it and do it, but once they get it in their system, they're going to do all the testing on the product. And that's where the stumbling blocks begin. So, making sure that the products, are top notch and they have all the best quality. The big brand kind of companies and the large companies that are out there, they're going to start buying the product. And they haven't necessarily all jumped into the game yet, but they're jumping in the game right now because they're starting to see that there's a big ROI on it, and there's all the different products that they could, embellish now. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. So your film, hot peel, warm, cold, because that's another thing that's really changed over the years. Initially, pretty much everything is cold, and then it became, hey, everybody's marketing a hot peel, but it's really a warm peel. And now you see the instant hot peel, and that's becoming a standard. So you do have an instant hot peel film. Yep. And it blew my mind when I met you a couple months ago at a trade show, and not only are we hot peeling, we're peeling 2 seconds after pressing?
3 seconds.
3 seconds. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, I talked to Jane. I was like, "Is it cured? Is it really
It's
on?"
cured.
And he's
It's
like,
cured.
"Yeah, it is." I mean, hey, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, I say this all the time. Respect the chemistry. I'm a Breaking Bad fan, Walter White, and at the end of the day, the chemistry is doing something there. Why? How is it that you can do it 3 seconds? What exactly is happening? How do we know that ink is properly cured onto the garment? What is going on there?
So it's properly cured because it's going through the drying unit. We also heat from the bottom on that ink as it's going through the machine. So it's top and bottom heat that's helping that cure that ink on that film properly. We're not over curing it either. So there's a point in time where, if someone's pressing ink sometimes at 15 seconds or 20 seconds, if you really look at it, you're really actually heating it up and you're breaking it down, which is going to cause cracking sooner. So there's a lot behind the scenes on the chemistry of the ink, the powder, and then the film. We dove in a lot of this pretty deep early on just because of the liquid adhesive and how that chemistry all went together and to get the right feel, but with also not, interfering with the garment and the way they transfer, stuck to the garment and the longevity of it. So, we did, I don't know, probably 2.5 years early on where we had a wash facility here and we did a lot of wash facility testing here. And I mean, it was like a daily process. And, you're talking about,
Yep.
we were lucky, hour cycles, continuous washing, wash, dry, wash. I mean, we've done every variable you can think of, but we try to get somewhere in the range of 14 wash cycles done in a day.
Wow.
So, it was a lot, but with all that testing, guess what? We got to where we're at a 3 second press time. And on some Sanmar garments, the Port Authority ones, we can press stuff in 1 second. So
Wow. Well,
it's quick.
And I know I learned it through plastisol heat pressing. Yeah, you can overheat that ink. You're going to start hurting the durability by over curing, whether it's in the dryer or on the actual heat press. I mean, both
Correct.
can happen, and that's what's tricky about this. But it's also one of the cool things is, we are actually curing the print to start. When I would plastisol print, where would be there's essentially a few different temperatures that we're going to typically press at. When it comes to screen print, we lived at 375 all day long. At 375, I didn't have to powder the ink. Well, you know what happened? Everybody decided, let's make more tri-blends. Let's make more poly blends and so forth. And 375, it'll leave a box on a tri-blend. Yeah. So you have to powder the ink. That allows us now to drop below 330 if we cure it in the dryer. So as long as that, powder, I'm going to throw it in the dryer, get it at 320 or so. It cures in there. Now when I press it, I can go at a lower temperature, but I can't go really below 300 on paper. At that point, I've got to switch to film. And so I used to do a lot. We did a lot of low temp, and on low temp, I'd prefer to use PET. Mm-hmm. But again, you're talking about just the sheet, 80 cents, in it, and not cheap. So, DTF, not only to give us all this, but hey, all of a sudden we go to really low temperature, which the market has been pushing us to need to do because we're going on a lot of synthetic materials that doesn't like that higher heat. But something you just brought up there that I think is really cool, and I saw on your Stealth printer. So let the Stealth itself, guys, we're going to start with, drying the ink and kind of work backwards because this is a really cool machine that you guys developed, Chris. I mean,
it is really
I go
cool.
to these shows, I see a lot of different printers, and I hear a lot of different things, and it's like, that's cool. It's like everything else in the room. Your Stealth is the machine I've seen recently, and I'm like, that's in a whole nother ball game. It's a different sport. And before though we talk about that, I want to talk a little bit about color, like you just brought up, because I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there. What I'm starting to see more, Chris, are these printers coming out with more than CMYK ink. And that's really cool if you have grip and profiles set up to make it work. And It's funny, I go to these booths and I'm like, hey, look, we've got all these additional colors. It's like, it's cool. Your CMYK print looks better. I mean, because it doesn't matter. Hey, I've got more ink here. If the brain behind the printer doesn't know when to use those different types of inks. And I know it's, you know, you guys are even starting to explore this as well.
Oh yeah.
Everybody is, but it's a process. It's not just CMYK has been around forever, but you know, drop in light cyan, magenta, green, orange, you know, fluorescence and so forth. It goes on and on and on. But the more ink colors we get in there, the more of a color gamut we can hit. But it's misconceptions, and I've also been to a lot of booths that do have CMYK equipment, and then they again have another, and again they're saying, "Hey, yeah, we do the CMYK, it's okay, but look, it can't hit this color." And I'm thinking to myself, I have no problem hitting that color. I'm using the right color profile. So, you know, it's the wild, wild west, Chris. It's we could go on and on and on about color, but just everybody out there knows, hey, CMYK, I'm telling you, you can put out a lot of beautiful stuff if you're using the right color profile. 99% of your customers aren't worried. If you're doing a spot color print for Coca-Cola, well, they're used to seeing screen print for decades that was mixed to be that specific color. And that's what I've seen, Chris, is, you know, most customers, if it's a full color image, it's got a lot of color in it, it's really hard to say that's not the right shade of red. It's your eyes aren't doing it. But when we get a spot color print and your customers bought screen print from you before, they will notice that one or two color that is not the same gold or maroon or whatever color it is. I don't know. Again, I can't wait to try your film. One thing I've seen with film, you have all these instant hot peels, and I am getting the best instant hot peel I've ever gotten. The problem is we may blow our color a little light. And the color that you see on the film and the color on the shirt are two different things. And so everybody out there just know, like, hey, you want an instant hot peel, just know your customer may come back to you if it's, you know, very few colors in the design and they're ordering a bunch and they've ordered from you before and you've screen printed it. That color could definitely look different. Have you seen that, Chris?
I haven't seen any color change on it. I mean, we obviously, when we do a lot of ICC color matching profiling, we're actually testing on material as well and scanning it on material.
Yep.
So that in itself will get you exactly. And we've got some high-end customers that, you know, we're doing on different color fabrics as well, because they obviously want a white and a black profile. We also have a profile for like a low humidity. We've got quite a few different things that we have in the system to try to, you know, accommodate. But when it does come to those inks and those color expanders, that's been an ongoing push on our end, probably for almost 5 years. It's now out there. We're soft launching quite a bit of it into customers that we know who are 100% needing this technology. And a lot of that is, you know, a couple fluorescent colors, like you said, and then a couple spot colors that are made strategically for getting the widest color gamut that they could get. It is definitely the way of the future right now. The customers out there, it doesn't matter who has a machine in the market, they want consistency. So,
Yeah.
and I've noticed that there's been an influx in customers wanting the best products, the best inks inside the machines, but they want consistency because they're ready to grow to another machine. So if they don't get them profiled and you don't profile the machine, they'll never match each other. So there's a big push right now in the market of how these, let's call it any size shop, second machine they get, third, fourth, fifth, 10th, they start really honing in, or we catch them early on. So we have a lot of customers that we've sold multiple machines to, but then we also have new customers, right, that had something they bought from somebody else or bought it overseas. And actually, I kind of like those a lot when I hear them in our system, because I'm fascinated listening to the technicians talking about when we first do the first print for them and how they and what they think of the print quality. They literally are ready to get rid of the other printer because the print quality is right there with the profile. And that says a lot.
Yes.
I mean, it truly does say a lot. So,
and another reason why, again, I'm a big fan of working with a tech that really has a lot of experience with this. You know, I was printing the day I had the printer plugged in when Jay showed up, but I used a guy who's installed dozens of these, throughout the country, a lot of different types. And, I'm just asked, like, what's next? There's guys out there that are looking to buy and so forth. And the quality hasn't gone from crap to just amazing overnight. It's been good. You nailed it. It's the consistency. You want to go into the print room every day and not have the printer break. You also want consistent consumables, and American made is going to be a lot more consistent than overseas. It's just a fact. It's nothing new. It's not new to our industry. It's, overseas they think, oh, they want it cheaper. No, we want less headaches. I buy from Sanmar. There are cheaper suppliers, but guess what? Sanmar gives me the fewest amount of headaches. At the end of the year, I'll save time working with them. So the inks, I do think we're going to keep seeing more and more printers with more heads, with more additional colors. It is a great concept if they have the color profile built behind it. And again, that color profile may be different for a shop located in Florida versus a shop located in Arizona.
For
and a lot of the printers.
And the software early on, when it came to those fluorescent colors, they didn't blend the fluorescents. Those were just spot colors.
Oh, they were just spot. Oh,
yeah. So early on, it made it really difficult for you to, really get a good feel of how the chemistry was really going to flow together. But now, let's face it. These 4 spot colors or fluorescent colors or expander colors, however you want to call it, they're now all blending with that CMYK, giving you the ultimate print of color. So it's changed. I mean, everybody's jumping on, and I'm glad the software companies have made a lot of adjustments on that side too in this market.
So you've seen the software. What are you guys using as far as RIP goes?
We currently use InEdit. Yep, InEdit.
Okay.
Yeah, really good software. We like it. It's got a lot of features to it.
Does anybody come to you? Hey, I want to use CADLink. Hey, I want to use Flexi.
We did use Flexi early on. We currently don't, but not really. I mean, even customers that have machines that, we've replaced machines on and we go in there with our software, they love the ease of it, but the tooling within it is so good for profiling, and you can adjust a ton of features in it if you need to. It's just user-friendly, and it's very robust.
Awesome. And does a lot, we'll save this. I was just wondering, a lot of this logic, does it apply to the UV world as well? I mean, how different is you? Okay, so
same.
I bet UV has become easier because of all the headaches and learning through heat applied DTF. So let's get back to the Stealth, because again, I think this is one of the coolest printers I've seen out there. Why, guys, I really love this printer is it is an all-in-one. So when I say all-in-one, you've got the actual printer portion and the dryer shaker as one unit. Really cool. Well, it just flows and synchronizes together. So the first thing you mentioned was just how can we heat press something for only 3 seconds and know that it's cured? Well, we get a perfect cure in the dryer. And pretty much every dryer out there is using bulbs that heat, and I don't know. I don't know about you, but whenever I think of bulb, I just think this thing could catch fire. And my dryer one time, it fell out of the little thing. I don't know how. Nobody lifted it up or anything. And, just sitting on the film, burning it away, almost catching fire, burning the shop down. But I really like, again, first printer I've seen, it's bulbless, right? And talk to us a little bit about that technology, from a dryer standpoint, the advantages of what the Stealth can do.
So the heating elements inside there are silicone, and it's almost like spider webbed inside there, but more intense than even a spider web. So the heat is definitely well dispersed throughout the whole section of the dryer, where a bulb is, a spot here, hot, cool, warm. There are, bulbs are, firing on and off because they're, quartz are. So you do have a lot of inconsistency in trying to get a quote I consider as a perfect transfer. So consistency as far as the heating element and the silicone is the only way really we see is definitely the future of this technology.
Is it essentially like a heat press practically in there? Is that kind of the
Not
same
the not
concept
the same
almost?
inside there because those wires are really spread out. Like I'd say, pretty far
Yeah,
apart,
those
like
coils
this.
are kind of, yeah, so you're a lot
Yeah.
closer for that
So
consistency.
yeah, I bet you they're eighth of an inch apart, quarter of an
Oh,
inch apart,
wow.
really close together. And it's the entire pad, and so those pads are inside there, and they create a very consistent heat.
And
So,
that's one of the main reasons, not just the consumables, but that technology in your piece of equipment is what allows us to drop that temperature for pressing.
yep, it's one of the many features.
One of the many features. So, again, time is money. And you get what you pay for, Chris. But if we can press in 3 seconds instead of 12, do you know
Two
how
hours a
much
day.
more you're going to be putting out? Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. I bought my DTF printer. I was like, shit, we're done after 3 hours because I'm printing like 115 square feet an hour. And it's like, this thing flies.
Yeah, we recently left a facility where they bring in a bunch of assisted help, about 230 something people, and they calculate it out on all their equipment. Once they get everything up and going, they need to bring in half the amount of people to do the
Because,
pressing because of the speed on the press time. So, I mean, it's real numbers. It's two
well,
extra hours a day
well, and we saw it
at the show.
in the past 5 years. Well, the past 5 years, Chris, 5 years ago, never saw a dual multi-station press. Now, everybody's dual. I see a lot of MEM pop up now. I heard a lot of good things out there. I'm a Hotronics dealer, but it's a $10,000 press. I mean, that's not cheap because it projects things and so forth now, the ProPlace IQ. But I think where people are stopped buying carousel, manual carousels, those are gone. What you're starting to see are carousel heat presses and the speed at which you can just be pumping. I mean, I know shops are getting 500 shirts out an hour heat pressing, and that's just incredible. So your machine, again, all in one, makes it a lot easier. But that dryer, right off the bat, hey, I'm starting to decrease my time. Awesome. But what I think is really cool is you have what? A humidifier, a
Yep.
dehumidifier.
Yes.
Isn't there an AC built into this thing as well?
Yeah. There's air
That's
inside of it
crazy.
and heat.
So guys, what essentially Chris essentially saw, at least I'm going to make some assumptions here, is you guys probably kept installing these things as like, gosh dang it, they don't have an environment for this thing. I mean,
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter how good the consumables, how great your engineering is. If they can't control the environment, 99% of DTF printers out there are not going to sing. They're going to battle, and then
Yeah.
before you know it, you're replacing print heads. And again, I learned this through DTG. After replacing like 6 $1,200 print heads, I finally learned my lesson. You know what? Humidity's kind of important. This is
It
a
is.
water-based ink. Water will dry, in a print head. This ink will dry in the print head if the humidity isn't living at 40% when the thing is sitting, at least. And then when we're printing, we want to live often between 50, 60%. And, yeah, so Chris, what you did was you kind of built this dummy-proof machine.
Pretty much.
That's diehard screen printer who has never dealt with humidity issues. Their shop gets to be 100 degrees in the summer, and they're determined to buy one of these and stick it in the corner. They couldn't do that until you now have the Stealth, which,
Yeah.
I mean, we can run one of these wherever we want, right? I mean, isn't that
Pretty
the
much.
concept? Because this is the next phase of printers. How can we make them more dummy proof? How can we make them work in any environment? Because not only this, a lot of printers out there, Chris, their prints change throughout the year based on the environment that they're in. If it starts getting colder, if it starts getting hotter, or just the humidity's fluctuating, they're going to get different. So it's the consistency. That's the key word today. How can we create consistency, the fewer amount of headaches as possible? Having a printer that can heat, cool down, increase humidity, decrease humidity. Crazy,
Yeah,
Chris.
when you were at the show and you saw the Stealth, I'm glad that stuck with you. It does with a lot of people. That machine running, and then I think at that time we showed you how it prints, the front glass was closed. It was printing back and forth, and you could see the print coming out and how glossy the white looked on there. It looked like it should look, and people who don't know, it needs to look wet looking, but it's not going to be running off the film. But then we went, and of course we're at a trade show, so technically the environment is somewhat controlled. I mean, they're putting
for most.
They're putting air in there at least, or cooling it to a temperature at least. But then we went to one of our other machines in the same booth, and you could see it was not as glossy.
Yep.
And so what we've done is we've controlled the chamber area, and by controlling the chamber area of how that is, that's where the printing is all happening. So it's super important to make sure that chamber area for the quality of the way the print is coming out. And anything from there, it's really changed the game for a lot of customers, because it's something that they're not having to control necessarily a big room. Granted, we're not going to put it in Arizona next to the window or a hot garage door, because there's a lot of hot heat radiating from that. But, if your room is, an office space or a good space that's clean, this machine's going to work fantastic in there. It's going to control.
And Chris, your Stealth is a mini.
It is smaller,
right?
Yeah.
Essentially. So, Chris, do you guys sell A3 size printers?
What size printer?
Anything under 24 inch. Essentially,
we do sell a 13-inch printer as well, which is an all-in-one printer. So it's printer and dryer shaker combo, all in one unit.
Okay.
Actually, I kind of call it the little speed demon, because it is actually really fast. I do like that machine a lot. I think that's a great fit for customers who are looking to get in it, that maybe are unsure. It's a touchscreen,
but it's an all-in-one.
It's all.
So I want to talk about my experience with an A3, and hey, Jay sold it to me. He really took care of me and everything else, but freaking hated that thing because what I've seen with a lot of A3, it's you have a printer, then you have a dryer, but that dryer shaker it's consistently heating about 10, 11 inches. Well, I need 12 inches of consistent heat. So I like the idea, if you're going to go smaller, I like the idea of having an all-in-one, because I've seen a lot of those out there where the dryer shaker really can't keep up with or isn't properly curing really the print as well. It's all one connected situation. And if one part of it, a lot of printers out there, but do you have a dryer shaker that can actually cure the inks as fast as it's printing? Is a question. So then let's go the opposite direction. Is it the Venom?
It's the Venom.
What it's called?
Yeah.
The Venom, guys. So this is the next thing you're going to be like, can you really even bring one of these to a trade show? I mean, how big of a printer are we talking about?
It's pretty large. It's about 15 feet. It's over
15 feet wide.
15 feet in length right there, yep. And it's
or like
6 feet tall. It's a big...
And how wide a film?
Film is 63 inches.
63-inch film. So, again, backing it up, I see 13-inch wide printers. Most printers out there are 24 inches. You're going to print 22. Mamaki has this unique 32-inch.
Yeah.
You're seeing that a little bit. You see some 48-inch printers out there, obviously. And now we're going to print on 63-inch wide film. That's crazy, Chris.
It is. It's a fantastic machine. Honestly, I would probably say right now, the ones that we installed customers, they're actually flying to Phoenix or going to other customers of ours that are allowing them to come in and seeing this technology run, and their mouth drops. It's a massive looking machine, but the ease and the use of it, the film from the back to the front, all the way to the dryer, it's all tension driven. So it is as tight as it can be, and it's shifting, a span like this at a time, moving the ink forward or the film forward. It's pretty impressive. It's so impressive. It'll do the entire roll in about 37 minutes. And wait.
Let's put it in perspective. It's still 63, inches wide. I mean, it takes me hours. And I'm printing. I have a 2 or 4 head. and I'm printing 115 square feet an hour. And I'm like, oh, this is running fast. We're making good money. And I can only imagine,
It's crazy.
What that is doing. And is that an all-in-one?
Nope, it's two. It's a separate printer and dryer.
Okay.
The drying unit is touchscreen. It's super easy to use. The machines, both of them, are very solid. They're very industrial, super industrial quality machine. We put a lot of energy in those machines. The customers that are running them are running generally between 14 to 16 hours a day on those machines. It's a lot. We're working right now on the roll size films that are twice the size, so they can get more runs during the day, longer run cycles, because switching out the film, 8 times, 9 times in the day and cutting that
I need
down.
a forklift.
That's what it is. That's what we're doing. We're doing a lot behind the scenes. But, you don't realize the volume until you start looking at customers that are purchasing these. If you're at 4 machines, you need one of these. I mean, it's going to take out quite a few more than 4 machines. But if you're at 4, just in the dollar amount you spent, it's time for this machine.
Yep. Well, and it's, yeah, I can only imagine what a 60, how much you're putting, how many print heads. So for those who don't know, these printers out there, you have 1 heads, and somehow, I don't know how, but one can do white and CMYK. And then you have 2 heads. Typically one's white, the other, CMYK is all in 1 head. It was hard for me to fathom because I don't come from the wide format world. I come from a DTG world where each ink color has its own head, and it's all in one. So like I have a 4 head, 2 of them are white, 2 of them are CMYK. How many print heads are in this Venom?
15.
15 heads, guys.
Yep.
15 heads. So when you have 15 heads, it goes back to what we're talking about, the CMYK and everything else. Before you know it, Chris, you can start dropping a lot of different, fluorescents, red, green, blue, orange, but you got to dial in that profile to really hit it. It's kind of funny. As a screen printer, the easiest thing for me to print is a 1 or 2 color. The hardest thing for us to print in DTF is a 1 or 2 color to hit that specific color.
That one color, yeah.
It really is. So again, what we're learning is, one, the equipment does influence the quality and the production, obviously. And it's not just how fast the printer's printing, but how fast we're going to press. I think that Bulbless technology is like, wow.
It is a change.
We're going to save money here by spending money here in a way. Or guess what, Chris? I don't need a dump. So I was thinking about relocating my shop, and I hate renting, one. And more than renting, I hate dumping money into a rental to make it work.
Yeah.
So if I was going to rent, I would have to build a room. And I was looking at, $15K to build something that I would never own. And it's like, this sucks. Versus, wait a minute, I'll spend a little bit more on a printer.
Yeah.
That now I don't have to build this space. And now I have something that is going to allow us to heat press that much quicker. And not only us, our customers. Because that's what most of these shops are doing, Chris. You buy equipment to fulfill your own needs, but hey, well, we're going to sell it to everybody else. And that's everybody's selling DTF train. You're talking about a saturate. I mean,
it's a lot of customers.
I'm in the wrong. I was too much into doing consulting and everything else. I mean, I love working with DecoNetwork, but I probably should have worked on my own stuff from the get-go, because I've been in the transfer world and that got turned upside down.
It did.
I mean, and you have to find your niche in this. You have to have. So with me, I don't sell to. I sell to local shops. Absolutely, I fulfill, but I'm not trying to compete with. For example, stalls or Ninja transfers. It's just they've got it figured out. My niche are those schools. I have a relationship with them because I was them, and I can relate to them and make suggestions and do things. It doesn't matter if you're selling transfers or you're selling a shirt. It's the barriers of entry in this are crazy low. You have to find a way to differentiate yourself. And really, it's all the things outside of putting ink onto a shirt or onto film. And in your case, I'll confidently say it. I bet I can put out a print that's as good as yours, But guess what you can do? You can sell it to somebody and say, this is going to take you a sixth of the time to press it. And that's a great selling point. You know, how can we differentiate ourselves? Yeah, we can, you know, more colors, better. Right now, it's all about instant hot peel for a lot. I'm kind of shocked that Ninja is still pushing just a cold, personally, because I would have thought the customers would have demanded, you know, something else at this point. But hey, they're obviously doing what they're doing. But obviously, it's not just the equipment. So one thing I think is really cool that you guys at Cobra Flex are doing, you're throwing one. You've already told us you're the coating and everything on that film done in the States. Really cool. You're also using U.S. made inks. There's this company, you know, it was founded over 100 years called DuPont. DuPont. When I was growing up, Chris, grew up in the 90s. Mm-hmm. Jeff Gordon won every single race. And I remember like, what the heck is this DuPont? What's that, Dad? and it's a chemical company. And then for those who haven't seen it, watch Foxcatcher Farms or one of those things on the DuPont dynasty. But the point is, you're talking about one of the oldest and largest chemical manufacturers in the world. I think they came up with Teflon, but other things like gunpowder. They're just crazy. There was gunpowder. Again, I think it is super cool that you guys are working with DuPont and your inks are made here in the States. That's unique. You know, that's I do know that, hey, you can flush your printer and start buying ink from Cobra Flex, this DuPont ink. But you're going to then, again, remember, different type of ink, different type of film. Any change that you're making there, you may need to be adjusting your color profile for. But talk to us about the ink, how it's getting better. What the heck is glycol? Why is it in some inks? You know,
so
what's changing there?
DuPont, safety is a big thing. So having glycol in any of the products, you know, hits the list of, you know, they don't want it in there on these big brand company names. Yep. So, you know, they've got a product in there that's, you know, not glycol. So that makes things even better. They, you know, Prop 65, they're, you know, Key Tech certified, you know, but those are key factors that these companies are looking for. They do not want bad products, you know, from films to powders to inks. It's just a mandatory thing that they have. So as everybody kind of gets smarter and savvier in the market, they're going to realize right away that the better the product they're going to get and put out the door. And they kind of haven't really at this point, but it's getting there. I see it now, the market kind of shifting to a degree. It's definitely the larger companies that are doing the bigger push, which is just going to trickle down because they're going to be very consistent on getting what they need to get done.
Well, glycol is what in there to help with the viscosity so the ink flows. Is that correct? So it's not helping the color, you know, it's not doing it. It's just making that ink play a little bit nicer in the machine. But, you know, if you guys print your own transfers and you're kind of like, what's this greasy, you know, oil, I don't know, clear residue. It's glycol. Yeah, oil. It's doesn't look healthy, you know? I mean, that's the thing about these printers, guys. You've got to remember, this is such new technology. We don't necessarily know. We have an idea what this exhaust or powder, I mean, it's not good. When has it ever been good to breathe chemicals or residue or exhaust? It's never been a good thing. And it's such new. So we talked about, okay, so the inks, you know, if we can get the glycol out of there, they're going to be a little bit safer. We get the formaldehyde out of the film, we're getting a little bit safer, and everything's playing nicer. There's a third consumable in this, powder. And there's a lot of different types of powder. I'm a big fan of cutting my powder. I have fine, I have medium. I mix them together. We dump them in there, about 50-50. I've done this with Plastisol for a long time. And it helps kind of get the best of all worlds. Opacity, durability, you know, stretching, and what's my third reason? Oh, hand. Let's talk about, you know, in hand, Chris, here's what I learned at the Printing United Summit over a year ago. It was the actual summit, bunch of pretty well established decoration shops. And we were talking, and we kind of all like, you know, our customers really don't give a damn about this hand. It looks so good. Most customers don't. Now, yeah, you do get some. The other thing is, gosh, you wash it one
It
time,
does feel better.
it starts feeling a lot better. But we as decorators have always beaten ourselves up when it comes to this kind of stuff. The hand has gotten better. I do think some of the powder, but ultimately there's this concept
Still
of going
there.
powderless, Chris, and what is the thinking behind it? I made some assumptions. I was like, I think it's going to help with the hand not having powder, because I can tell you from plastisol screen printing experience, if I put that powder down, I can go at a lower temperature. I do get a little bit better durability. I also get a little bit better opacity, but my hand suffers immediately. You know, I've put an extra blocker on there to kind of make it thicker. And the same thing could be done with like vinyl, you know, years ago. There were hey, this one and this one do the exact, well, look at the hand. I mean, this one's a little bit more durable, but it doesn't feel as good. If you're wearing a jersey, you don't care. You're wearing a t-shirt, you do. So talk to us. What is the thinking behind going powderless? Is it more about the hand, or is it, hey, we're trying to make this as safe of a process as possible?
It's definitely a combo of both. I mean, early on, it was definitely safety, no doubt about it, just because of the product of the powder that was in the market. You know, it's getting in the air. A lot of the machines then, you know, didn't control the powder chambered area so much, and you've got people sprinkling on, and it became a mess on the floor. It's a slip hazard, you know, if it's on the floor. There's just a combination of many things. So as we released, you know, no powder, that became, you know, basically a change in the market. It was a shockwave for a lot of people. We don't currently sell at this time. We're revamping the chemistry and the product with one of our partner companies, and it's going great. So, wait and see. I know it's coming here in the near future. So I think it's going to be one of the exciting things that's going to change this market again. But I like it for the hand, no doubt about it. The hand and the ease of use. There's nothing that the hand.
So the hand is better.
It feels like
it is more
you
of a
just got
softer
a DTG print on your shirt. It's got that really soft hand feel to it, and you can do dot for dot. So when you really start breaking it down, like our proprietary powders are a blend as well of different kind of powders, but they are able to capture really small, fine detail font and, halftones and stuff like that. But when it's liquid adhesive, you're literally encompassing that dot, print head dot that's sprayed down, and you're encompassing and encapsulating the edge of it with, a small portion over. And what that's doing is it's creating, an ease of release. And so there's this halftone pattern that's amazing. So in the future, this will be a must-to and a must-have for everybody, because they will dive right into it and want it.
One time we actually did a CMYK on using plastisol transfers, which, hey, that was a interesting experiment. But guess what? We did it two different ways. We did it with a clear adhesive as the last layer, and we did some with powder.
Yeah.
Again, it all this same stuff concept. Hey, if I got to powder it, it's gonna feel thicker. If I don't have to powder it, it's gonna feel a lot softer. And a lot of adhesives, what people don't realize, that's soft when it's a liquid or anything that's not a solid there. So our main three consumables only keep getting better. More of it's becoming more American made. It always gives everyone confidence. And again, it may be a little bit more expensive. You guys, you can't compare it to what you were paying for DTG. It is dirt cheap. It is practically, it's pennies. So everything's getting cheaper. Everything's getting better. The equipment is getting better. You're seeing more print heads, which allow us to then start adding more colors, which allows us to hit a wider gamut. But then the dryer shakers, one thing we've seen over the years is the return capability. Hey, that's cool. Bulbless. That I think is another cool thing, because not only you're getting better cure, you're changing the pressing strategy and what you need there. I mean, at that speed, Chris, I don't even think you would have enough time to use a 2-station press. You'd just be at a 1-station, because
that's ultimately
I can't
what
be
they're
that
doing.
fast.
Some of these shops that we have these machines in have 100 and something heat presses in there, and they're dual units, and they're revamping stuff into single because the dual is useless at this point for them, which is kind of crazy, because that's been the mentality, is let it cool down, cold peel.
Well, cold peel, definitely. Yep.
They're adapting. The industry is changing quickly. I mean, I feel like kind of behind the scenes, myself and Jim, my business partner, him and I had this technology and have been doing it, but the market kind of is like the Wild West, like you said. It's pretty much, everybody's kind of to themselves there for a while and trying to figure it out and getting in the game, no matter how they get the equipment, learning it themselves, having somebody install it. But right now, everybody's fine-tuning exactly what they now need, because it's like I said before, it's their livelihood. This isn't something that they're going to run away from anymore. They are running to it, and they're building it bigger.
I'm seeing fewer printers that are all literally made. They all are the same, and somebody slapped their logo on them. At least they get a different box around it or something. But again, you can't state enough how early we're in this compared to where screen printing, embroidery, all those processes are at. I mean, we're still in the infancy. We're not 5 years. It's dog years, though. I mean, it really is. Every year feels like a dozen. So is there anything else, that we haven't talked about that you think, our viewers would find interesting, of where you think, or, if you're going to buy a printer today, or, hey, should I wait? What do you got coming out at Long Beach, or the next big show, Chris? Really looking forward to seeing you there, is Printing United. And for those who don't know, in our industry, there's really like 2 shows that are now just way ahead of everything else. Printing United goes back and forth in the fall between the East and the West Coast. This year it's in Vegas. Next year it goes to Orlando. I'm already planning a Disney trip.
My kids are a little too old.
I'm kind of excited. Very different than what you can do in Vegas. I can't take the family to Vegas and have the same experience in Orlando. But guys, Printing United, crazy. That's where you can see a lot of innovation. What's new? I mean, you'll see printers that, hey, this won't be out until next fall sometimes with some of this technology. And then Impressions Long Beach is just another, like, wow, that this is big. Anything, that you think is worth share, or you can't share? Again, the best things you can't share, Chris.
Some of those good things. But we are going to bring every piece of equipment, all the printers. So the Stealth and the Venom, everything will be there. We're definitely going to go big with everything. Oh, yeah.
You're going to have a Venom there?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And see, that's how big this show is, guys. Like, it's big enough that, hey, we're going to haul this thing over there.
They'll be ready to take orders.
Well,
for
that'll
sure
be
that
really
show with that
cool.
Machine. And I think what's going to happen too is we did bring it to a show earlier on this year, and it did get damaged. So we were able to run the printer, but we weren't able to run the drying system. It got crushed up underneath. So that was unfortunate. But we did get a lot of customers that were very interested, and that came to Phoenix to see our equipment run, and then purchase from that point on. But you will watch this equipment run, and if you, like I said, if you have 4 machines, this is your wheelhouse, because those 3 other employees literally could go do other stuff and be more beneficial in the company.
The way I like to look at your Stealth and now what you're doing with the Venom, it's to me, the Stealth was like when the Tesla cars started coming out. It was like, hey guys, not only is this better for the environment, look how fast this thing is, look how cool it looks, all the other things that kind of didn't matter. And that'll bring me to my last little thing for you. Sustainability. We are chucking a crazy amount of film as an industry. Do you see this becoming
recyclable for sure.
or anything?
We're already in the process of testing different kind of products that are more recyclable than the PET film. We're continuously always striving. The packaging that it goes into, that's a big push as well. Because if you think about how it's packaged and
it's a bunch of styrofoam. I can't even.
We're behind the scenes working on all those items, because this industry doesn't need more waste. We can improve all these things. So there's a lot of drive, and some of them are partner companies, and some of them are just vendors and stuff that we buy from, that we talk with, that say, hey, listen, how do we do this better? How do we make our boxes better? How do we make the packaging, streamline that? Do we really need the plastic in it? There's so many different variables that we're working with to try to make sure that, one, we're providing the best product, but also not trying to overstate and throw garbage, that's just cut the box open and throw it away. That venom runs
Yep. And
a roll of film, a 63-inch roll of film every, 37 minutes. So, making sure that we ship this stuff properly, not boxed. That's a lot of boxes to throw away, if they're running 14 and 16-hour days.
yeah,
It's a lot of film.
yeah. Oh my gosh, I still can't
It's a lot of
fathom. Again, there's a lot of there. Hey, I see a lot of wide format printers, so that's practically what it is, but it's different. Well, yeah, Chris. Anybody I talk to, they love what you and Jim stand for, what you're doing for the industry. I think you do a lot, not just for Cobra Flex, and I haven't spent that much time, I haven't seen you guys that many times I know you're there. I'm busy, and I really enjoyed, having that conversation with you about the stealth. Again, I'm really close with Jay. He has just the best things to say about
Definitely.
what you guys are doing. So Cobra Flex, you guys really are helping set that bar. You always need somebody to set the bar. I think Sanmar sets the bar for, blanks. For years, Stahls has kind of set the bar for heat presses and, heat transfers and so forth. You need that benchmark to hold everybody else in check. And, Cobra Flex is really, I think, the one doing it now. I think there's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misinformation. When you can buy American, hey, do it. Especially when it comes to this technology, everything's only getting better, and you're going to have a lot of peace of mind too when you buy something like from Cobra Flex, and you're not calling up China.
Exactly.
Okay, what do I do? So, Chris, where can our viewers learn more about Cobra Flex equipment, consumables,
they go to
everything else?
CobraFlexPrinters.com. They can click on that. You can see all the dealers on there. I think we're in this overhaul all the time, I feel like, on the website side, so definitely reach out.
Chris, your first Cobra Flex site, I am 99% sure was on Deco. I am 99% sure, because I remember finding, I'm like, that's a Deco site.
Yeah. So definitely go online, take a look at it, and then obviously the dealers, because that's going to be your best connection to try to get all the information you need. Definitely our staff members can help, send you some PDF information and all that kind of stuff.
So, before we move on, you have dealers spread throughout the country? Or?
Yep. We have dealers all throughout the United States. We're working at some over in Europe right now. And we get asked a lot, to become dealers in Canada. We have a dealer in Canada as well. But, a lot of locations, it's really like that dealer might have a niche in that market with customer database, and they're looking for a product that they want to stand behind, and we get a lot of requests every week on customers that our manufacturing companies that say, hey, listen, I want to come on board. What's it going to take? And
those dealers typically then have some background as far as a technician, or they have a resource to be a tech, something like that.
Yep, there's still guidelines that they got to follow that we have to qualify them to come on board. Have some technicians that can go out there and do some kind of service report. If not, we're willing to train. But, what's the background of the company as well? It's exciting when they come on board and, they have already kind of got a list of customers that, are really fascinated about the equipment. And that's kind of usually where it starts. That's usually how it starts. They're like, hey, I got these customers and they're really just jonesing for this piece of equipment. And how do I come on board to become a dealer of it all? And
everyone's DTF, Chris. Everyone is DTF. Yeah. And I recently ran a poll in DecoNetwork's Facebook group. I've now, based on just this small poll, small sample size, but more shops now own their own equipment than don't. It's going to keep going that way. Hey, there's also going to be a lot more people who are I'm going to just buy a heat press. I'm not going beyond that. And hey, you can compete with that shop that has $1 million worth of equipment. Guess what they're doing? They're using a Cobra Flex transfer. This mom and pop who's been in business for a week is putting out the same quality product.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
It is. It's great. It's also terrifying at the same time. You know, again, this industry is so fast. And what, this week, you know, I don't know, a $2 billion company, S&S, bought Alpha Broder. I mean, that's the kind of world we're living in. That's how crazy things are. And DTF, nothing has changed the industry. And its timing was also crazy because it came out during COVID, which also, I had 3 things happen in the same, 5-month period. DTF, COVID, parenthood for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm totally thrown off all at once, Chris. But it's crazy. Nothing has changed the industry. Again, leaders like Cobra Flex are the ones who are helping guide us all. Thank you so much, Chris, for joining us, everything you're doing. Yeah, go ahead.
I got one question. So the big question that I've had in my head too, and I've got this asked at one of the shows, I might have mentioned it to you when I saw you at the last one, was if DTF came out first, would screen printing and or DTG even make it out in the market?
No way. No way.
That's what and you've been in it, like I've been in this industry since '91. So I've seen it all, done printed transfers, digital, direct to film, direct to garment, and you name it, right? Embroidery, everything. But when it comes down straight to the screen printing versus DTG versus DTF, would those have ever made it in the market?
And I'll tell you, I don't think. I also don't think the digital squeegee either. When you look at some of the, I mean, hey, every decoration process typically has a time and place.
Yep.
Screen printing will be the hardest one to overthrow, obviously. Oh, yeah. But why is screen printing preferred? Well, color accuracy. We only talked about it a lot. Cost, because screen printing is cheaper as far as the ink and the speed, which again, if we're starting to bring these printers out that can do the speed and so forth. So the next thing we're seeing at shows, cutters. You know, I got to get it off. Now I'm sending a machine to cut it all. That had take time. That's faster. So
that's a question. That's a question.
But the big thing though, Chris, is customers ask for more colors in a print a lot of the time. They really do. And you know that the whole market is always going to be segmented. Again, Coke, they're going to typically, hey, I want the Coke logo. I get it. Okay, one color. But your average customer off the street, no, they're not asking for one color like they used to. So DTG, nobody hated the printer. They hate pre-treating. The pre-treating is the worst. That's what kills that, and it's more expensive now and so forth. The hand, the hand is a little bit better with DTG. No, I don't care.
Longevity.
The customer doesn't care, and it's gotten better. So no, I just DTG's not dead, but it's definitely pivoted. I don't see many people buying the GTX Pro. If they're going to buy anything, it's going to be a 600, and they're doing crazy volume. But everybody knew that digital would eventually catch up. I do think that's the case. I mean, it'd be like still using a typewriter because you think it's better than a computer.
Yeah.
It's just not the case. It was the first thing we had, but it's not the case. And it's not just our industry, Chris. So my father-in-law is the production manager at a 150-person offset printing company. So I get some fun tours in there.
Yeah.
He has a Heidelberg press. Heidelberg press has been around a long time. It's lithography. Well, they now have a $4 million new toy, which is a digital printing press. And even in the paper world, that Heidelberg is getting used less and less every single day because the digital technology, and what really took digital while the ink cost was always typically a lot higher. And that also made a lot of infeasible. It just didn't make sense. But now, and even what he's doing, like what you're talking about before, it's not just CMYK. It's all these additional colors. It's adhesives. It's, dropping a gloss. I mean, it's all these crazy things you can do that you also can't do on this. And, I thought, hey, with Plastisol, one thing I'll do more is I'll have those special effects. We'll do, some glow in the dark, metallic glitter. And you still often will get something better when you screen print it. But guess what they have now, Chris?
Yeah,
they have glow in the dark film. They have metallic. They have glitter. They have color change. I've seen the heat activated.
Yep.
There's some pretty cool effects you could do.
A lot of effects.
Every day, like, oh, screen printing this can't. No, not anymore. And guess what? It is cheaper to go that route. And yeah, I can't tell you how many shops I've talked to that have been screen printers for decades. They own multiple presses. They are literally selling everything.
I see it all the time,
They
too.
really are. And I'll be honest, in my shop, I can't tell you how much I've contemplated it, because it's like, and you know what it is? It's not the equipment. It's all of that knowledge and experience I had to get to that's making me not want to give it up. I mean, look behind me. That's actually ink on the wall. That's not a
ink
back
behind you.
Yeah, that ink. It's not the cost that, okay, this isn't going to be used. It's literally, gosh, this took so long to figure out to do it this well. I can still pump out quite a bit here. I don't have the venom, but at the end of it, we barely screen print. It takes up more space in our shop.
Yeah,
this is what a lot of shops do. And I contemplate. I have a whole dark room that I could put two DTF printers in. For the amount of space. So yeah, I think a lot of us screen printers are, asking ourselves the same thing. I know some of the bigger screen print equipment manufacturers have let a lot of people go, know, and it's sad. I mean, things are pivoting. The art is kind of disappearing a little bit. I personally, I don't care, because I'm actually a terrible printer. If you want me to be on the equipment and so forth, I'm not good. I'm that's not my job, but at the end of the day, we've kind of, t-shirt printing has come back to being a good heat presser. And I don't think there should be a negative connotation. As an industry, don't use the word transfer. Typically, most customers don't care how something's printed. They don't care if you do the printing. They really don't.
Yep.
But the word transfer has some negative connotations, but guess every decoration, I don't care what it is, can be done poorly or well. And when it comes to transfers actually had been getting really, really, really good. I mean, look at what Supercolor did with their hybrid process, which again, for those who don't know, hey, it's PET film. This was before DTF. PET film, CMYK print. They backed it with a white screen print. And what they did was they used a water-based ink, and it got you a really nice soft hand. Yeah, and immediately that hybrid was amazing, and so forth. Game changer. Burn one screen. Yep. Really cool. And again, that's the hybrid kind of in there. I see these digital squeegee machines. They're really, really cool. They're a nice. They're very expensive. I mean, Chris, you could. I don't know what a Venom runs, but you probably could get one or two of them before you're buying one of those, because they are crazy. And I've also been in some shops that said, this took like 6 months to get really figured out and get dialed in. And I was like, I cannot imagine paying for this thing for 6 months and not be pumping out work out of it. And when you buy a DTF printer, the day the tech comes, you should be printing jobs, in my opinion. That if you aren't necessarily doing it correctly. And I know a lot of shops that they paid off their DTF printer within the first month. That and they had the jobs. But it's also going to be interesting, Chris, how this market goes for transfers. I mean, it's so saturated. It's kind of crazy. I don't know if it's going to be the big guys doing more fulfillment, if it's going to begin more smaller shops fulfilling for their neighbors. That's what I've seen. More and more. Hey, you know what? I don't want to buy screen print equipment. You already have it. Guess what? I'm going to buy DTF. I'll send you this. You send me that. And that's where I think the industry is going, Chris. We don't look at each other like complete enemies. You've kind of alluded to it. You don't look at your competitors selling DTF equipment and consumables as your ultimate enemy that you're trying to necessarily completely crush. We're kind of one ecosystem as a industry. And again, Chris, let's wrap it up. God knows I'm the worst at wrapping up a conversation. Watch my videos, guys, especially those walkthroughs. But Chris, I really do appreciate your time. I really do appreciate what Cobra Flex is doing, setting that bar everybody else is, kind of strive to do what you're doing. I can't wait to visit you guys at Printing United. We're going to definitely make some stuff on the Venom. Also, guys who don't know, if you're really into DTF, there is the DTF Expo. It's the second year. It's in Chris's backyard. Cobra Flex will be there. Everybody will be there. So, Chris, I'll treat you to one when I see you there.
Awesome. I appreciate. Hey, thank you, Zach, for everything. I appreciate all the good words, and this was fun.
Thanks, Chris. You have a good one.
Yeah, you too.